welcome to Bex Checks. My name's Bex, and this is the show where I call random numbers, just like yours, check on strangers, just like you. And we're back, baby. New year, new Bex. Mostly the same Bex. Although, as you can see, I'm not at my usual spot. And that is because my preamp is no longer with us. It's with Jesus now. So I have to sit here to use my computer mic or the guest won't hear me. I am so excited to start this new season off with today's guest or person or whoever, whatever we call them on this show. I'm so excited. I'm not even going to tell you anything about them. Let's just call them.
Hello.
Hi, is this Sunshine?
Yes.
Hello, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
I'm very good. This is the first this is the first time in the history of this show that I have ever talked that I am already a fan of the person that I'm talking to. But for those who might be snooping on this call, what would you want them to know about you?
I'm a Karankawa woman from the Hawk clan. We come from the Karankawa tribe of Texas. My people have always been on the Gulf Coast. Our ancestral and contemporary homelands reach as far down south the Gulf Coast as South Padre Island, all the way up the coast to the Galveston-Houston area, and then around 100 or so miles inland, but that really varies depending on like who you ask.
Right.
You know, some get like, oh no, it was way more, and some like, oh no, it was less. And I am a language keeper for my people. I was at one point an organizer for my people for a protest against Enbridge, an oil distribution facility that is and still is ongoing, trying to expand upon unceded Karankawa land. That battle is still ongoing, but since I've stepped away from organizing, I now have put most of my energy into language keeping, speaking, panel speaking, educating, and making art.
Yeah, and the art is how I found you. What does it mean to be a language keeper? What does that look like?
That means that I have an understanding well enough of our ancestral language to take what I know, revitalize what has been taken from us, and use that to teach the revitalized language to our people now. So I speak our language and I give classes to Karankawa people.
That's really cool. How do you know the language?
I know the language because I have access to a lot of archival journals and texts from like anthropologists, linguists, settlers that arrived on the coast. Okay. I'm not somebody who had a direct tie to anybody who heard the language spoken, though I believe one of our elders does. But I got all my information from archival texts, and luckily, I didn't have to accumulate or consolidate that knowledge. It's available to our people on our website, and I just did the work to kind of find the patterns and what was missing, and as I said, reconstruct and then give it back to the people. So it's all just been research-based.
That's really cool. You did mention at the beginning that a lot of people, that you or kind of alluded to the fact that a lot of people think that the Karankawa, is that how you say it? Karankawa people are not here anymore. A lot of that is actually that specific one. I remember something about Stephen F. Austin claiming that he wiped them all out.
Right.
And there was that big battle. Was it something Creek? But yeah, what? So like, what does the history look like from your people's perspective?
So yeah, from our perspective, we remember when, I think this was in the 1400s, We remember when the Spanish first accidentally arrived. It was a shipwreck, and I know, and they were so, you know, I almost always want to say it was so understandable, but then like I look at everything that's happened now, and it can't be. But when they shipwrecked here in the 1400s, they just survived this tragedy. They on land they'd never been on before. Their food was destroyed. Their men were dead, and they were starving. And we were just kind of watching from a distance for a long while. But then they started eating each other, and because they were starving, and they didn't know what to do.
Right.
And so my people then like intervened. We mourned for them. We took them in. We gave them food and shelter. They got better slowly and then sent them on their way. But that was first contact from any settler presence. Then after that, I'm doing this in like a quick timeline here.
Sure.
Like it was the Spanish again, then the French, then the German, then all the rest of the other Anglo-Europeans came. And actually, when we first encountered these settlers, we welcomed them. So my people are on the Gulf Coast. We were the defenders of this continent, and we were always used to encountering people, tribes from different cultures, different languages, who looked differently. There's this misconception that when the settlers arrived, the natives were like, oh my God, these gods. No, like we were very used to strangers, and so we welcomed them. But our welcome was short-lived once they started to start their shit, like taking their children, or not understanding that our culture made it acceptable for things to be borrowed and returned, and not so much calling it stealing. And what I mean by that is a lot of conflict started from misunderstandings where if a settler camp left a pot on the ground, in our culture, that is our pot. We share it.
Yeah.
In their culture, it is their pot. And if it is taken, that is stealing. And so it was just shit like that over and over that build to eventually devastating battles and disease. I know that on the second contact, or maybe it was the first when the Spanish got here, they brought a stomach bug that really devastated our people. We had never been exposed to these new dangerous viruses, and so alongside conflict and the killing of our buffalo and disease and war, eventually my people had to either disperse and assimilate into this developing like new Spain and then like the Republic of Texas culture, or we had to flee to other places like Mexico, Oklahoma, Louisiana, all across the nation, or we were killed. And so it was reported that we were all killed off by the Civil War. That obviously isn't true. Here we are still. What mostly ended up happening is that different bands of the Karankawa people existed and kept some of their like familial lineal descent wisdom alive. And when the internet came into our homes, one of the first things that people did was look up where all the rest of the Karankawa were. And it's just been a very quickly like developing snowball basically into more and more Karankawa finding each other.
That's amazing. Also kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It also kind of implies that we, like, when the settlers would have known that you were already here, right? Like, there's, like, the conception, I think, like, I learned in school that, like, we arrived here and we were like, oh, there's people here. But it doesn't sound like that's accurate.
Right. Yeah, no. We were here in large, beautifully developed natural settlements that were also described by some like settlers' diaries as incredibly advanced, incredibly clean, incredibly thriving. And it's just so crazy to see continuously countering propaganda that insists otherwise.
I had a debate recently with this kid that said that, like, basically anyone pre-colonial anything, like they were not advancing. They were not capable of the things that we've given them, like cars and planes and shit. And well, actually, I'm curious. What's your response to the cars thing? Like
The
like
the
you got
cars?
yeah, like the huge thing I always hear is like that white people gave you big, like, large scale transportation, and that native tribes, they just walked everywhere, and like that's not advanced, right? So what is your response to, like, what, like, you've actually,
Right.
you're the one who taught me from your content that, like, Native Americans kept this, like, land exactly the way it was for 20,000 years straight. Do you think that
Right.
is because you didn't develop like a capitalist nation and just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and constantly innovate and constantly change?
Oh yes, yeah. Like, people are like, oh yeah, like what about cars? Like isn't that cool? Well, it's convenient. It's
Right.
comfortable. It's instantaneous access to comfort, but also it's one of the many puzzle pieces that completes the puzzle that is the devastation of industrialization and capitalism.
Yeah.
So there is, and there was an intentional decision to stay in a strict alignment with Mother Earth. In
Yeah.
fact, my people were seasonal migrators. So we had permanent settlements all up and down the coast, and we never stayed at one for too long. We would rotate around because we had this understanding that you can't just harvest from one region forever. You are going to exploit that land. I'm aware also that there were other indigenous civilizations that did kind of overexploit the land, and they had to abandon cities and go set up other places. But we didn't. We were described as savage and primitive, but really what they were seeing was this intentional decision to not industrialize, to not subscribe to comfort over balance with the Mother Earth. So yeah, that was an intentional choice on our part, and we can see what the choice of industrialization and capitalism and colonial ideology has done.
Right.
The common retort is, oh, well, we won, and you're just sad. Won what? Like, what's the prize? Like, look around. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's like we're playing King of the Hill, and we just lit the hill on fire and said, "Look, we won." And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, what do you
exactly.
mean?
It's
The game's
hysterical.
over. You got me thinking too about maybe I should explain from my side, like, where I'm coming from on all this, because about last year, the government started coming for trans people, and I started trying to speak out more, and then I realized that, like, I should look up queer history. That got me looking into Afro-queer history, because it turns out that black people specifically have a lot more queer history orally spoken than white people do documented, because white people consistently burn that shit. So,
Right.
so then I got into like if you get into African American history, you're gonna get into colonization history, and if you get into colonization history, you're gonna get into Native American history. And then I started learning more about, like, what the world looked like before we fucked it up, and
Yeah.
and there's a lot of insight to be drawn from doing that, and I know now. I mean, it's so clear to me now that this is the reason. This is the reason we don't teach this stuff, because these are natural conclusions you're going to get to if you teach this stuff. Especially little kids are going to say, why did we treat them this way? Why didn't we listen to their side of it? Especially because Americans pride ourselves on being a melting pot, and
Yeah.
but we didn't listen. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, but, like, it's amazing if you look through each step, every single story you read. is colonizers, settlers, completely disregarding what Native Americans are telling them, when the Native Americans are coming at it with complete good faith and saying, hey, you want this land, you want this part of patch of grass that you want to grow on, that's great. But listen, we've grown on that patch of grass for like centuries, so we actually know exactly how to do it. Here's how you should do it. And we said, fuck off.
I know.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then it like goes into we start to realize that so much of colonization and capitalism and all these things are connected and intertwined into this level of like, there's one group of people who not only thinks that these resources are supposed to be exploited, but they judge others for not exploiting them. There are people who cannot fathom why your people didn't capitalize on that sweet oil you have.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? And this is it's so much of what you were the first person I ever heard the idea of deconstructing whiteness. And that like rocked my world, because it's not something that we think about. It's not something that we're ever taught to think about. And
right.
White people, or I guess like colonizers, we're taught, I mean, we're all, it's white people. White people are taught, and Americans colonizing like all of this power, the oppressors, we're all taught that like our culture, which doesn't exist, and our, ancestry that's kind of made up, all of that stuff is just as precious and real and valid and to be celebrated as African Americans, as Hispanic people, as Asian people, as the Native Americans. The Native Americans and us, hell, we're practically kin now. You know? And it's extremely frustrating. I'm sorry, I don't mean to just talk at you.
No, like I'm right there with you.
Where I'm at, where a lot of well-meaning white people are at, when we talk about land back, a lot of us well-meaning white people are like, fuck yeah. Listen, I've done the bare minimum of research and I know. This is a character I'm saying. Like, somebody who doesn't know anything was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's the right thing to do. We have too much of the land. We did so much bad stuff. Even everybody knows it. It's on all the cowboy movies. We saw it. So, like, we should, the people are kind of coming around to, like, land back makes sense. And especially given the fact that, like, there are countless cases, modern cases in the last 10 to 15, 20 years of like, our country, our government misusing land, being told by Native Americans, hey, don't do that. Here's why you shouldn't do that. Here's why you can't legally do that. And we do it anyway. And we all have seen it. So, like, so many of us are against this corporate villain that we've all made without making the connection that, like, we are that villain. We did that.
Yep.
And a lot of us are talking about land back. Yeah, let's fucking do it. But secretly, we're worried. We're really worried. What does that mean for us?
Yeah.
What does that mean for the colony? And what's crazy, what I've realized, and just this week actually, is that's the wrong question. The right question is, what would this land look like if we never got here? What would this land look like if there never was a colony? And is it possible to get back in that direction? And how do we help make that happen?
So whenever I do meet a white person that is like, oh my gosh, yeah, land back, but even they are acknowledging, but like, what does that look like? Because there's nervousness there. I always love to bring up the fact that nervousness exists because they're assuming that us returning to our land will look like the settlers arriving to this land.
Right.
They are frightened that we are going to do to them what they did to us and what they continue to do to us.
Right.
I will always say, first of all, they are not that important. What is more important is that, we do return back to what it could have looked like before settlers arrived. So I am a self-proclaimed indigenous sovereigntist. I can only ever speak for, barely my people. I can only ever really speak to my clan and my familial lineage and the specific region of land that we were on.
Right.
That's all I can ever attest to. And so if we were 21,000 years is the, like, you can look this up anywhere. It is the timeline for indigenous presence on these lands that can be carbon dated and referenced. I don't know, petrified footsteps in the desert, drawings on caves, tools left behind. That's how long the indigenous peoples have been here without debate.
Right.
And if for 20 or 21,000 years the land was almost unchanging, that is not a testament to savagery and unintelligence. That is a testament to extreme intelligence. To live as a human populace on the most sensitive, imbalanced ecosystem that is the Mother Earth for that long is incredible. I can only assume that we would have kept doing that. The land would look like how she was designed to look, like that we wouldn't have the unfortunate invasive species that we have here that have since changed the landscape. And because she's so smart, she just adapted and overcame. I know because elders have told this to me from different tribes, and even here in Texas, the different tribes have said that Central Texas downwards didn't used to have this many ash junipers. There was way more grass. There was way more rolling grassland.
Yeah.
And we had a lot more dirt because we had a lot more rolling grassland.
Yeah.
But they report that what happened is when the settlers came here and killed all the buffalo so that we would die, what they also killed, besides a protein source and a relative and hide and soup and tools, was our primary grazer. When our primary four-legged grassland grazer was gone, the grasses grew wild, and so then the settler introduced their primary grazer, which they took from another land, cattle. And different four-legged relatives of ours, different grassland grazers, are not all the same. When the cattle was introduced, they overgrazed in like a lot of different specific ways, and when the grasses died, so did the roots, whose job it was to hold all the soil, feet worth of soil. When all the soil could no longer hold on to the roots, the soil, alongside other natural things like time, weather, erosion, blew away. Our dirt left, the grasses died, and then our ash junipers started to move more inland towards Central Texas. And that wisdom that's been passed down to me from different elders and different tribes all across, like, the plains of America to Central Texas. This is just things that we are taught of how different it could look. It would look so different, but it would still be familiar. We would have more answers to life's questions. If we just let the earth do what the earth was meant to do, it would be, and it still can be, incredible. How we do it is by stopping our fucking whiff of the Mother Earth. The human beings, the contemporary human beings who do have this, like, superiority complex are ridiculous in their assumption that they know better than the earth.
Yeah.
Certainly, Mother Earth can get sick. Trees can get sick. Nothing is perfect. But she has it settled. She's really smart. She rarely does anything for no reason. She is tough. She knows how to balance herself. But the human beings keep interfering in assumption of, I don't know, many different things. Maybe that they're helping, or maybe that how she wants to naturally grow is an inconvenience. I'm not sure.
I think it's that. I think that I was sitting here thinking as you were saying that I feel like it has some connection to like I'm wondering how the colonizer, like, how our ideals formed, and I want to say that it has something to do with, like, it's like a rugged individualism combined with, we draw our divinity and superiority and power from a supernatural source. And we think, because we don't understand nature at all, we think that you get your energy, power, and knowledge from a supernatural source. We are so unfamiliar to nature that that your connection to the ground makes no sense to us. And so we rationalize it as like kind of like Christianity, that we believe that our divinity comes from a sky man, a sky wizard. And so when you have this sort of rugged individualism, where rugged individualism, which is like a facet, I feel like rugged individualism is a facet of capitalism and a facet of colonization, where the idea is that it's not that we don't necessarily, we don't acknowledge history for sure, but it's not necessarily that we don't like history. We just, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, look what all these dumb people did before you. Don't do that, but going forward, do whatever you want. Do what makes you feel right. Do what you want. Go get your bag, right? So we have this sense of like, we're pushing forward. Forget the past, move forward, and that's why like that. I think that's part of the why like art and music and things are so cyclical and weird, and they change so like with the decades and things like that, is because we're kind of just rewriting things constantly because we don't have any roots in anything. But we think we do because we have roots down in like weird, vague ideas.
Right.
It's interesting to me how like I hear you just sit here. We've been on this call for not even like 30 minutes, and you almost flawlessly explained like your past, who your people are, where like what somewhat of what you believe and things like that. If I, as a white person, start getting, this is why we don't talk about this stuff, because if we start pressing, like if you ask me about myself in that same way and I start trying to explain whiteness, that suddenly becomes extremely difficult. If I try to explain Christianity or religion, that suddenly starts to get very, very, very uncomfortable and complicated. Both of the ideas that our country or this fucking colony based our whole shit on, both of them are so vague and so are just ideas.
Yeah, right.
They're just ideas. Yep. They're thoughts.
Yep.
And they're lies. And it's this weird. And so it's like hard because what my focus has been basically with a lot of my content and a lot of the things I'm doing now. My goal right now is to try to help other people deconstruct their whiteness. And it's hard for me to figure out which side of it to attack from, because the goal really is to get them to see through capitalism. But
right,
that's so difficult. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to what my most recent video is talking about, and tons of other people already know, which is it's just so comfortable. It's so comfortable. It's a warm, cozy, perfect bed that we do not want to get out of, because we know that when we leave the warm, comfy bed, it's going to be cold and heavy and dark for a very long time. And just people, I mean, it's hard. It's hard for a lot of folks who want to get out of that bed, but what they don't understand, yes, well, that's true. Past the awful, cold, dark heaviness of it all is the rest of the world. It's connection back to Mother Earth. It's balance as close as we can get to achieving it. It's, as I said, like answers to questions that all humans have. It's fulfillment. It's community. It's wonderful, but it's comfortable.
Yeah. I was thinking about this, about like, about how you just said, I was just thinking about how you said earlier, like if that you shared everything, right? And that would be the ultimate goal, right? Is for us to move towards that level of a community focused society. Maybe if people really desperately need to have a full governance, we could have people that like help make sure things run properly. But like I like part of the idea that makes a lot of sense to me is like it goes against our wiring, because we're wired to think, like you said, that's my pot. If I need a tool, I know where it is because it's mine and it's in my house. But if like if I can't afford a tool,
right,
then I don't have a tool. But if we all share a tool, then I know that I have one, and I know where it is most of the time.
Yeah.
so it's I'm very frustrated. I'm very frustrated. And it sucks to feel powerless. It sucks to feel like I don't have, and I'm a trans woman. Nobody listens to me. I can't I can't get through to anybody. I did that post yesterday, inspired by that bitch that was commenting on your that DM'd you.
Yeah.
I did that post yesterday, and so many black people were like commenting and loving it, but there were black people in the comments that were being transphobic to me, and I was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah. we're literally, I'm literally trying to help you, and you're missing the point." Like, so I get it. We're so like it's all dogma and it's all like conditioning, and so I guess what's so cool to me is the idea of being deconditioned and the idea of being able to I think that if we got rid of capitalism, I think that if we changed the way our systems work, and I am at a point now where I no longer have an attachment to the idea of a country, to the idea of a state. I already for the last year or so considered myself probably socialist or communist, but at this point now I'm like getting to a point where I think I'm starting to agree with you. I think I've heard you talk about that. Like there is no saving America because it was flawed from the start.
Right.
So I guess do you think that it would just go to like territories?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it would go, and I know like one of my way more well-read friends than I, and an incredible radical activist that taught me a lot. There's a specific phrase for this, but yes, I think it should go all the way back to territories that not just a tribe has, because those have always been contested. There's this like idea that like all the indigenous people here were all just killing each other anyway before the settlers got here.
That's a big one, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely not true. We were battling, certainly. Was there death? Obviously. Where there have been human beings, there has been murder. What we never did was genocide. What we never did was rage war on the scale that the settlers did it, and that their culture had developed. We know this is true because there are no mass war graves on this continent here in the lands that are now called America. I think the closest one you have to go to is somewhere in South America. We didn't do that. That is a huge myth. So, yes, we would go back to tribal territories as imperfect as they were. It was better than this. And I even argue further that it would then go to band in specific regions within the tribal territories.
Sure.
I only think that, though, because that's how my tribe was able to do it. Us, the ancestral Karankawa people, were actually never a unified tribe. We were just 5 different clans from different families that were chill with each other and agreed to rotate in this way and just chill. I don't know, like it's not. I don't know how it got messed up so bad. I don't understand how it seems complicated to other people, simply because I know that my ancestors lived that way forever. And I know that we still hold those values. Like, we still have some clans that are there that are still, like, we're all still chilling. Like, we're just, I just don't understand either what the hell happened.
Do you, first, by the way, my response to, like, well, they were killing each other before we got here. If they were doing what we were doing, then why were they so ill-prepared for what we did?
Yeah,
Why were the Native Americans so literally flabbergasted by our tactics that they could not get together to consolidate an idea on how to respond? Because it happened so swiftly and horrifyingly and violently, and really fucked up shit. The killing of the bison is crazy. The killing of the buffalo is like one of the crazy, and there were countless examples of clear indications that that military officials tried to spread diseases and cover it up. There's clear cases of like high up government officials pulling really fucked up shit. Then don't even get me started on, on the whole thing of like white people causing riots because the government's not being racist enough.
Right.
That's all really Bacon's Rebellion, all good stuff. But anyway, yeah, I think that whole argument is ridiculous because it's like, but like you even white supremacists will admit that no one's done it at the scale we've done it. Like, it's
right.
It's terrifying. My question also, so going back to the territories thing, what would like the technology landscape look to you? You use technology, you like movies, don't you? I think you posted about a movie one time.
Yeah. So indigenous technology is still ideas that are in alignment with what Mother Earth teaches us to be true. One of my favorite examples of indigenous technology is how, and I think there's still some places, I haven't seen any in America, but other countries that do this, that our sewage or water systems were floating like there was like pure water like floating throughout the streets that like fed the crops, and there was like a different type of like sewage system that existed. Like we weren't just like sitting on the ground like the settlers did like when they got here. We weren't just plucking without taking. There is so much indigenous technology that it just takes in general to be able to live that long on your ancestral homelands.
Yeah.
The specifics of them, I'm actually not too educated about, but I mean, I know they exist.
You're saying it's more of an approach than a specific set of technologies that like it's kind of like the Amish. They have slowly added things to their arsenal because they recognize they're useful tools.
Yeah.
But it's not interfering with their overall goal of like of basic simple living. And like I also think you're kind of maybe sort of talking about like there's a level of like understanding the use or going about science from a indigenous perspective and understanding that like the more we can understand about this world, the better we can protect it and work in line with it.
Yeah, there's this, I was just talking about this with a woman in one of my classes a couple of days ago, how interestingly and devastatingly enough, a lot of colonial ideology and science, whether it's aware or not, relies on the goal of harnessing whatever it is it's studying.
Interesting.
So that they can just sell it or exploit it or extract it.
Interesting.
Maybe there are some there are some scientists who are purely like in it for the love of the game, as it were. Like they just want to know more. But very rarely does that knowledge not isn't immediately followed by harnessing it and then isolating it and then synthesizing it and then exploiting it so that it can be bought and sold,
making it more convenient.
We never went that route. So our scientific method is the same. Like, what's the hypothesis? What's the cause and effect here? But the goal wasn't to harness it or exploit it to be bought or sold, because we had a foundational understanding that there's no such thing as a resource. There's no such thing as like an item to be bought and sold. There are only living and breathing relatives of ours who have autonomy, who have wisdoms within them that we can learn from. So there was, to us, a limit.
Holy shit.
And I feel like that limit contemporarily does not exist. Ooh, that's a Mean Girls quote, too.
You just blew my face off. That is... Wow. Nobody teaches this. No, to
I
us,
know.
to us. Like
Yeah.
that is such an interesting. If you, I mean, as always, as it has been now for a few months, you are constantly changing. You're restructuring the workings of my brain. I have never thought of it that way. I've never thought of it that it's so true that like that is the goal. Even if you were like, I've seen like I see well-meaning people who are like, for example, in so that I don't speak out of turn, I'm going to speak in my own community. Like in the trans community, there are people who are so well-meaning, who have really, really incredible ideas, people who could genuinely change a lot of people's lives, who hide that shit behind a paywall.
Oh yeah, right.
And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get how
Yeah.
you can claim that you're helping your community when you're making them pay for it. And
Yeah.
then they say, well, my time is valuable. And it's like, so is theirs. Like, so
Right.
is, so if your time is valuable, then isn't their time valuable too? And shouldn't they have this information that you have so that they don't waste their time on the same shit that you wasted your time on? Shouldn't your goal be to help, like, and then like filmmakers in my another community I'm quite familiar with, filmmakers do the same shit where they're like we like I'm gonna tell you all the secrets to filmmaking, but like pay me $10 for it. Like if you take this class,
Right.
then and it's like I don't get how you think that you can, like the whole reason that you want to do these things is because you recognize that people aren't getting this information, that people don't have access to that information, but you miss the fact that the reason they don't have access is because of capitalism. And so you capitalizing isn't making it any better. You've just dropped the price.
Right.
I just feel like I feel like you keep saying really wise things, and then I stumble around like a dying animal with it. And I'm just flailing, going, wow, oh my God, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And you're like, yes, of course I've thought about all this, colonizer. I'm sure this is probably extremely annoying for you. And this is exactly what with like Renee Good and Alex Preddy, like this is the same thing where like everybody's so heartbroken and waking up and they're so shocked. They're like, why are people mad at me for saying all this stuff? And it's like, why didn't you care until now? And it's the same thing of like, I'm sure you feel this way. I'm sure that you're like, wow, here I am yet again with some random white bitch saying that she gets it all of a sudden. And I know I know you're thinking nothing's going to change. This isn't going to change anything. I know you're thinking that. And I don't blame you. I don't blame you for thinking that. And this is what, like, the reason I'm here, the reason I'm doing this is because we, people who look like me, should be having these conversations, and we should not be scared to look like complete fucking idiots. Because settlers have been looking like idiots since the start. That's not anything new. What we should be doing is like, because there are people, this is the other thing that people like me are thinking about. When we look back at history, what's my place in all this? You look back at history, you see your people. I look back and I see people I don't recognize. So there's this disconnect for us because we're like, well, I wouldn't go and murder a bunch of people. So does that mean that I would be married to the people who wouldn't do it? Does that mean that that's my dad? Does that mean that, wait, oh look, there's this one person. Oh look, John Brown. Maybe I'm like John Brown. Oh look, maybe I'm like this one guy that fought back. And like, maybe I'm like this random unnamed person that left the colony to live with the Native Americans. Like, we all are scared to know what we would do. And now I'm realizing that like I think there's this level of the classic coming to Jesus, I guess, that we all just need to like realize that we are partaking in something horrible and that it does need to stop, and that it can happen if enough of us refuse to partake in it and refuse to, and in different kinds of ways, and then eventually work to dismantle it. But my frustration is that I don't know how to get people. It's like, I don't know how to get white people to see the light, but then once they see the light, then it's a whole nother thing of like, well, but then you have to do the right things with this enlightenment. right?
Right.
And I guess I guess I'm just talking out loud at this point, but I'm wondering why, like, what do I do? What can I do? What do we do, white people, do to, like, to fix this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like a what can I do in the here and now, and then what can I do in the long term. In the here and now, what I think the white person can do is many things. The white person can either look up a lot of different books they can read about from an indigenous brown or black perspective about history and resistance, or the white person can go outside and look up the different indigenous, black, brown organizations, not even resistance organizations, just organizations that are grassroots, meaning not tied to any corporation,
Right.
that are in their communities, and make community and learn from these people. The white person right here and now can also sit down. Like, that is also an option. And so the needs of the white person in the here and now, because I am an indigenous sovereigntist, are going to be different from region to region on whoever's homeland they're on.
Right.
What the white person can do in the long term is learn how to hold accountability. And it isn't just the white person that kind of ekes away from this feeling. It's humans. It's children. It's the feeling of not wanting to be in trouble. It's the feeling of not wanting to get spanked. It's the feeling of wanting to do good, but knowing that you messed up, and when mom or dad or grandma or grandpa gets home, they're not going to be happy with you. We are still all children. The myth of an adult is so damaging to the children we all are still, unfortunately, because we do live in a society that completely revolves around profit incentive, and we are taught that time is money. We don't spend the time learning what it actually does feel like and how positive it is to make honest mistakes, learn from them, and to be held accountable for them, not just in the actions we make in the future, but that also includes honoring and being transparent about who the person we used to be was.
Yeah.
Meaning everything we were just talking about. The white person and the human being in general needs to admit with excitement and eagerness, oh, I didn't know then that I was doing something wrong,
Right.
but I did. And now that I know, I will try to do better with the understanding that I will likely fuck it up again. And that is natural. Yes, we're going to fuck up along the way. We cannot avoid that. It's also tying into the cyclical nature of all things. We're not always full fruit, ripe fruits hanging from a tree. Sometimes we're seeds. Sometimes we're sprouts. Sometimes we never make it to full fruit for years and years and years because we're dormant for whatever reason. Sometimes we make a fucked up fruit and we have to try again, and that's just nature. So that's what the white person and anybody can do in the long term, is just acknowledge you're going to fuck up, you have fucked up. That's natural. It's only bad if you can't understand or accept that.
Yeah. And hold space for emotions on their side as well. There's perfectly good reason for you and black and brown people to be mad. And they may not want, this is something I've learned, everything I've been posting about race and whiteness and things like that, every single thing, there have been, there's been a small, minority of people who are black or brown or indigenous who, call me out on very specific things. They nitpick me like crazy because they will hold me accountable, because they're not going to let me just say it wrong or say it. They have to correct me. And I have learned that they don't mean, they're not trying to attack me. And even if they are, they're allowed to. Do you know what I'm saying? This is what should be expected. But it's part of the conversation is there's going to be people, we love to say, like, we love to just think of like Native Americans, black people, brown people as like one, as Hispanic people, one thing. Like there's this archetype and they're going to respond this way. And that's just not true. There's a billion different kinds of people within these communities and they're all going to respond differently. And some of them are going to be way more angry than others. Some of them are still holding place in their heart for their ancestors' anger and for their ancestors' heartbreak and pain and they have just as much violent rage in their heart as their ancestors did. And that's good. They should. That's a connection that they have that I'm jealous of. So it's one of those things where like that's the big lesson I've been trying to learn is that like, and I think I'm trying to be a proponent of this because I do have somewhat of a platform, that like white people should be willing to talk about this and should be talking about this stuff, but with a understanding of what that means for us. And like, it really is, like you said, like it really is just kind of for us, it's downhill and dark for a little while.
Yes.
It's going to be really rough for a little while. It's going to be a lot of people pointing fingers at us and yelling at us and finally getting, what did it look like when Trump got elected? Suddenly all these assholes who felt like they had to stay silent, they suddenly started speaking up. That's the same thing's going to happen. If the system falls and people aren't going to get shot for saying this stuff, they're going to start saying stuff that might make us uncomfortable. And that's okay. And then we should move past that point into the point where I would hope that we can build a better world and community and learn to be a part of it in a more meaningful way than just pretending that we have community.
Yeah, I wanna interject, and it is. I agree. It's about pretending under the guise of manners that aren't.
Yeah, they're not.
No.
Oh my God, that's so true.
It's politeness in the form of tea parties. It's manners in the form of you eat from the outside silverware, working your way in. For what? Because you're bored.
Yeah.
Because you're bored. And that's all you have going for you.
Yep.
There's this quote, it is not mine, but I made a piece about it that says the price of community is inconvenience. That isn't just a physical inconvenience, that's also an emotional inconvenience. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me all the fucking time, though. Here I am on my homelands, and I do not see any of my people, and this is all they used to be. It's on my homelands, and I don't see any of our native wild grasses in the bounty that they used to be. We're all uncomfortable. You know what we should do? We should all bring back communal bathing. I think if we brought back communal bathing, which I'm a huge fan of, we would all be able to see each other in literally one of the most vulnerable suits we ever wear, which is just our skin suit. And we'd all be able to really look at each other and say, oh yeah, we're all in this. We're all just fleshy, nervous animals with anxiety disorders trying to fucking figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe I should start trying to talk about that kind of that kind of message, because it's just not painted to us like that. You're so right that we assume that any kind of change, we assume that if we give minorities power, they're going to do to us what we've done to them, and that's just not the case. And we also assume that we assume that everyone else wants what we want. Therefore, if we give it up, they're going to take it.
Right, yeah.
And that's a really weird thing. And the communal bathing thing is so true. Because there's this, I agree, there's a level of, I don't know where that comes from. I don't understand. I think it probably comes from Christianity. But, the whole thing of being scared of the naked body has never made sense to me ever in my life. And I was raised a Christian. And the purity thing never made sense, and it feels like there is this we spend. I've come to realize that the idea that what we call being an adult is just being a good little machine.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's not yeah.
A good boy, a good girl, a good person, like a
Yeah.
follower.
It's a follower. Yeah, it's not any level of like wisdom or understanding. It's just you've learned how to play the part. Good for you. And in doing so, like our whole culture, not even just American, but like capitalist culture, I think is the has the express goal of destroying your childlikeness, your childlike
Yep.
wonder, and your childlike wisdom, destroying that, and then selling it back to you in
Yeah.
in a more packaged, like safer way that's not threatening to them.
Right.
And so many of my friends think that they like I know so many people who think that their childhood was Disney. And like I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like that's a movie you watched. It's you like your childhood was so much more than that. You just didn't like
No,
it because
that's
it
a
sucked.
movie. Yeah. Yeah. I know, it's very sad. And how you said that just really cracked me up. No, that's a movie.
It's a movie you watched. It's not the same thing as having a life.
Oh
Like,
my
and it's
god,
really
it's so
sad. And I can't talk.
it is.
Everything, sunshine, every single fucking thing every moral that I have, I got from movies. There is no other source in my childhood that ever connected with me. I read the Bible. I went to school. We did all the things that the government tells me to do. But none of it made sense. The only thing that made sense to me was movies. I learned what a good person does from what heroes do in movies. And of course, I've now unraveled a lot of that. And there's some truth to some of the things we put in stories. And storytelling has its place in history and in humanity in general. But my point is that, like, that's the closest thing. Movies is the closest thing we have to ancestral knowledge. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
most of our ideas and philosophies are ripped off from foreign films.
Yeah.
Star Wars is literally a samurai movie.
Yep.
And the Star Wars
I
effect,
know.
I'm gonna get into movies if we're too careful, but like the Star Wars effect really, like Sinners is the perfect example of this, where it's a really great movie with really great ideas, but it's presented to white people. Like
Yeah.
it is presented to make us comfortable in it. Not necessarily that comfortable, right? Not as like Green Book comfortable, but it's definitely like it's Star Warsified, it's sci-fi-ified, and like we can't just watch a samurai movie and get the wisdom from it. We have to watch Star Wars and get a
Right.
watered down version of it. And that's
I
not
know
a
I
childhood.
myself have been feeling a little frustrated with all like the if you watch Star Wars and you were rooting against the Empire, then you're losing the plot. And I'm like, why can't you just look at the life? Why can't you just look at the real life? And like, there's tons, and I get it that like first it's easier digestible, but it's just it just feels so removed and disrespectful. It's like when people are saying, "Oh my God, this is like The Handmaid's Tale. This is just like The Handmaid's Tale." No, this is just like real life, real history, as it's always been. One time. So
Yeah.
I lead decolonial walks here in Central Texas. They're called Reconnect walks, where basically what I do is try to restructure how usually the white person imagines their relationship with the outdoors. I do this in many different ways. And one time, on a walk with a group of people, I stopped us by a stream and I just invited the people to sit, just listen and look and just enjoy the time for a moment. And a white woman said from the crowd, "Wow, this is just like the Calm app." And I was, I just honestly, I think I blacked out. I remember nothing after that moment. But oh my God, this was like 6 years ago or something, and
Oh
it
my
will never
God.
leave me.
That's
Oh my
amazing.
It's
In
incredible.
it's like with Star Wars too that
Yes,
a lot of people are talking about Andor
it's
and
just
how
like
like
Star Wars.
yeah, if you watched Andor, then like, oh my God, it's so relevant and it's like whatever. And I watched it and I couldn't believe that Disney would make something like this. And then it dawned on me recently when I saw someone posting about like like praising Andor and how everyone should watch it because it's like this perfect blueprint for the rebellion. And it's wonderful. It's incredible storytelling. Don't get me wrong. But it dawned on me that Disney allowed this because, like, the powers that be are fine with Andor because watching someone do a rebellion feels just like doing it. So if we let them watch it, then they won't feel like they have to do it because they'll feel like they did it on screen. They'll feel like, hey, somebody made this.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we did it. Hell yeah. And somebody made this. That means we're making a difference. And it's just, wow, that's so funny. The Calm app. What a fucking, like, what a slap in the face to Mother Earth.
Yeah. As I said, I blacked out immediately afterwards. I have no idea what happened after that.
Well, Sunshine, this is amazing. I've been talking to you for an hour. I would talk to you for another hour, but I want to be respectful of your time. I'd like to hear any like closing thoughts that you have, but I also I would love to talk to you again. This is like, maybe bring to you specific questions or something like that. Oh, I did make a little list of last week of stupid colonizer questions. Would you be willing to answer those, or is that really annoying for you?
No, I can hear them out. I can see if I have an answer.
And then you can, and if you have any closing remarks or anything that you'd like to share or plug or whatever. So I wrote down stuff that I've seen people say or I've thought in my life. And we talked about the land back thing. One, is the term tribe offensive?
That would really depend from region to region. If somebody was to say, like, what's your tribe called? I would answer Karankawa. So and probably a lot of these questions are going to really boil down to the preference of the region that you are on. But I would say, no, that's what we are trying to be.
Right. Is the term Native American offensive?
I think so. I can describe myself as a Native American to be on the same page as the listener. But I am not an American. I might have a driver's license. I might pay my damn taxes. I might have a passport, but I do that because I am being held hostage here, and these are my homelands, so I will not leave. America, what is that? It comes from America Vespucci, I believe. I don't know that guy. I'm Karankawa always, and yeah, that terminology is so recent. It does not do my people's 800 generation long existence justice.
It is a presupposition that the land is called America. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So is, like, would native be okay?
I prefer indigenous.
Indigenous, sure, but I guess the problem, but like the indigenous is a word you use when colonization is there, which is why it feels like, to me, it feels like that word would be such a specific designation that you might want a bigger, more overarching word. But I guess indigenous would be that word.
Yeah, to me, it's the same as native, but in a perfect world, I would be called Karankawa because that is what I am. And we also predate, as you were saying, the idea of indigenous or native. We were and still are always, I think, I might be wrong, but I think it was John Trudeau, maybe not, who said we are the human beings. Yeah. And that's just, we are. I'm Karankawa. I'm a human being.
Karankawa. Yeah. I think what I'm hearing is that we really just shouldn't generalize the indigenous people because there's just so much variety. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, this next question's rough, and I already know one answer to this question because I looked it up myself, but I saw someone comment this in a comment one time and I saved it. Why does it seem like Native Americans speak better English than everyone else?
Well, I know for my tribe and our culture, our language is very complex, and to speak it in its correct pronunciation and diction and flow is the only way to speak it correctly. We even had cultural jokes about mispronouncing our words, and that was the whole joke. That's how far like pronunciation was for us.
Right.
There's also that a lot of indigenous folks were missionized, and
That's
we
what I
would
was.
be,
Yeah.
yep, and we would be beaten if
Right.
we didn't speak it absolutely perfectly. And the other reason is that we are better than you. That's my indigenous wisdom.
Should we just end the call there? I love it. No, yeah, I wrote down this is almost certainly because of boarding schools, and that like anybody, the big thing that we don't think about is like the only thing when we grow up hearing indigenous people talk, it's usually in movies, and it's usually like people who were probably grew up in like they were born in like the 60s, 70s, or 50s or 60s, right? So they were these indigenous people, these actors, like were either in boarding schools themselves or their like very close ancestors were like a couple of generations back. So it would make sense that to me, that they would speak really good English because it's like such a recent teaching.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean, I have memories in my childhood of my mother, a Karankawa woman, stopping me and correcting my pronunciation. And she told me, because if I do not speak to these people perfectly, they will have one more reason to not take me seriously. And they already have plenty in their mind. So still to this day, we have an understanding that we are forced to be representations of an overarching, made-up people, the Native Americans. And so we carry that burden, a lot of us, by intentionally speaking with very carefully chosen words and very carefully constructed sentences and attempting to have perfect grammar. It's one less thing to be nitpicked at.
Oh my God, that's in the Black community too.
Yep.
Oh my God, I can't. Of course, God, it's just the intersectionality of all this bullshit. Do you believe in God or a creator, and does that differ from like other indigenous people?
I do believe in a creator, and I believe that creator, the creator, a creator, has made this creation, Mother Earth, and all the things that come from her.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe that the creator can be boiled down to a gender. I hate when people say he or she.
Uh-huh.
It's like I just think that's another like another thing they're trying to hone. I know that for our ancestral people, we didn't so much have a unified spiritual belief system, but we did have commonalities between different, let's say, like deities that existed, or practices surrounding death or marriage or birth that did exist. But just like, you said, it differs from tribe to tribe. I do personally believe in a creator that has no name, and that the or a creator made this creation.
Yeah. A lot of us white people, I'm an atheist now, but a lot of us grew up Christian, and we had to like unlearn the framework of a God, of that God. And I've arrived at a place where like I think of it like aliens for some reason. Like I am not opposed to the idea that aliens exist, and it would make sense to me if some ancient alien like formed Earth and they said, all right, we're gonna plop this here and then bounce. Like, let's just fucking leave it out here. This is, maybe they have like some sort of mission to just spread life throughout the galaxies. I'm not sure. But it seems like if there is a creator, they're long gone. They just left this here and bounced and let us fend for ourselves. Like that seems like the most obvious conclusion to me if we're gonna talk about a creator. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I don't. So like that's also part of the mistake of giving the creator, a creator, gender or anything that is human. I do not believe a creator or the creator has any human qualities. How could they? How? Stop.
Yeah.
Like, that means, like, to stop believing that the creator or a creator has empathy. That is a human trait. Stop thinking that a creator or the creator has these very specific and beautiful human traits. In fact, stop trying to understand it at all. Stop, it's honestly just like, in my opinion, it is a waste of precious time when what we have in front of us is creation. And the creation in front of us, just by observing them for an hour, talks, lives, breathes, grows, gets sick. Some have children, some don't. Each have a role within their ecosystem and community. They each have a language, and they each have wisdom. That, to me, the Mother Earth, is the closest to understanding creator that we can get, in my belief.
You are a wealth of wisdom. Just a endless flowing stream of knowledge you are. Do you and I got the only other question I had was, do you think that white people can learn? Do you think we can get better?
Yes, but it's not a one and done procedure. I was once asked the question in another way: can the white man kill the white man within?
Yeah.
And I said, you must keep killing the white person within. It is this, it's like a zombie belief. You have to keep killing this dangerous white delusion ideology over and over and over forever. So in that way, yes. And I know bomb ass down as fuck white people. Like, I know some cool ass white people who not just say that they're gonna do shit, but have done the shit and have paid for the shit they've done grievously. These white people, I only call white for the argument of this conversation, but I see them as friends. Yeah. I see them as settlers, not settlers. I see them as settlers who have undone that ideology and understand it isn't just a one and done thing. It is a continuous practice. I would consider them my comrades, in another word. I would vouch for them. So yeah, it's possible. It's just, like we talked about in the very beginning, uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, holy shit, Sunshine. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Yes. Is there any final thoughts that you have for anybody who's listening?
Yes, my final thoughts are that there's no such thing as Native American culture, because that is in its, and if you sit with it for just a moment, is an incredibly homogenizing idea. Right. Every single tribe has its own separate and distinct culture, and that even goes inside the clans within the tribe. Why I end with that is just to remind people that I do not speak for Native Americans. I do not speak for South Texas indigenous folks. I don't even speak for the Karankawa tribe of Texas unless my council has told me that is the role I need to do. I speak as a Karankawa woman, an indigenous person who has been very lucky to still be attached to my community and still have access to different wisdoms and teachings. That is the only claim I am able to make.
Wow. And with that, I will let you go and have a wonderful day and continue to share your wisdom with the world.
Thank you. You too. Have a good day, and thanks for the allyship.
Yeah, of course. I'm doing my best.
As we all should try. All right. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow. Should we just all sit with that? I feel like I shouldn't even talk. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to say anything else. Sit with her words. Think about it. And if you'd like to talk it out, you can call me at here at Bex Checks. Right at this number. Oh, not it. Well, yeah. Call this number and we can talk about this stuff if you want. If you're a white person, and you want to learn more about this or talk more about it, I can try my best. Maybe we can unpack it together. But God, for now, let's just all sit with those words. Incredible, incredible wisdom that we've been gifted with here today. All right, well, bye.